Meadowbrook Mall, which is where Exxon started, part of Houston, but it's Humboldt. And, you know, that was a game changer, you know, I was like, say, well.
Well, you got away from the telephone modes,
Right.
you know, where it tied up your.
Well, yeah, and you had to MS-DOS all your commands. And, oh, yeah, it was a pain.
We lost one.
I'm of an age that, you know, I had friends that were, you know, getting in trouble for tying up the phone line, hacking into corporations for fun.
Yeah, easy to do back then.
Well, back then, no one had a
I'll
computer.
just say this
For
is
the most part.
nice. We've got people on. This is master plan. We've got people on. We've got people here.
We've got angry people on.
Not for master plan, please. Not for master plan.
It's not about the master plan. Be real, Lois. I've had emails all week. We have angry people, but they're stuck listening to something else or giving up because it's not what we're here for.
Are we dealing with this today?
Yes,
I thought this was about master plan stuff.
it is, but
That's on the
we
agenda.
had some, yeah, I put it on the agenda. We had some stuff missing. So I just, here's the copy of what we had approved. That's what we had approved previously, and we'll go through this in a minute. So Chris's document didn't resolve some of the things we've resolved in ours. So the question is, do we do both?
So,
All right.
all this stuff
So we'll do.
has more stuff than this stuff?
No,
No, it's the same.
that one you're holding in your hand is what's in that packet, right?
Okay,
I don't know why there's only two sections, but there are two sections.
No, because he updated those. Those are updated.
Oh, these
The
are
ones he handed out
Are
yeah,
updated?
Are
updates
updated?
to
are
the packet.
updated.
Well, if we have a
You'll
chance to start the
explain.
meeting, we'll
Okay.
talk about all that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Well, you know.
Okay.
Don't want to waste any more time than we need to.
We only get so much of it and we don't have enough to get done what we need to. All right, it is, everybody's here, so it doesn't matter. It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to open the meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of members, please.
Angus,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Here.
Keaton.
Here.
Darrow,
Here,
Dean. Available. Robo.
Here.
Any conflict of interest? If you have a conflict of interest tonight, you have a conflict of interest with everything we do. It just doesn't work. And setting and adjusting the meetings agenda. This is a special meeting, so there are no adjustments to the agenda. That's why I skipped that one. Okay. We are going to move on in just a second to our first public comment. We will have one at the beginning and the end. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes on any topic. And just for informational purposes, for anyone here in person or on Zoom, please bear with us. This meeting is set just to quickly review our special use permit amendment and to work on our master plan primarily. We will not be discussing the Baggs Road development. If anyone has a comment on it, we will still accept that. But understand, because it's not on our agenda and because this meeting was called for a specific special purpose, we won't be discussing it. It would not be appropriate for us to do so. So that being said, I would ask that you be respectful of time, and I will open up comments in person in Township Hall. Does anyone have any public comment?
Well, thank you. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Randy Melnick. This is my wife, Sue, and we're relatively new residents to the township. We've been here just about 5 years now, built a home on Wheeler Oaks, and very interested in the master plan, and appreciate the work you guys are doing and trying to get that together. It's critically important that a community have a good master plan in order to guide growth and development. And we know you recognize that, but we're anxious to see the process move forward and learn what you guys are doing and contribute to it, hopefully. Thank you.
spell your last name? Since you said it, I'll take it. I'm gonna have you say it again.
M-I-E-L.
It's close.
And we're just happy to have someone here that's not angry.
We're kind of new,
On a standard, so
Give him a little time.
we have a development that a lot of folks are
We'll
upset
get
about,
there
yeah,
someday.
so you may join the rest of them shortly, but for now, do we have any other public comment? Okay, I will open it up to public comment from Zoom. Do we, please raise your hand on screen or use the raise hand icon to indicate you have something you would like to say.
And Vicky Beam.
Vicki, floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your time and service. I will say that I am not an angry person as part of this meeting, but certainly wanting to voice my opposition to the proposed Bags Road development. As you know, I've been attending these meetings since I learned about the proposed site condo of 22 homes on 30 acres adjacent to some of the property my husband Jim and I have purchased last summer. We are building our dream home and have been going out onto that property daily to not only admire the view, look at the stars at night, because there are no lights, and we enjoy listening to the wildlife because it's so quiet. Respectfully, I feel that our township needs help. I am very much looking forward to hearing about your discussion of the master plan this evening. The master plan states 4 goals for the township, goal number 2 being preserving the Whitewater Township rural character. I sat through your meeting last week where you all made sure that a proposed veterinarian office that is taking over Sen Brothers Seeds would fit with the rural character. There was a great deal of discussion before everyone agreed it was a fit, compatible with the area, the rural nature, supports nature, keeping with the rural character of our community. Those were just some of the conversations. 22 homes on 30 acres does not fit with rural character or feel unless you are in a metro area. We have inconsistent views on where we are as a township. A new neighbor of ours has had issue upon issue to build a horse barn stall on agricultural land. However, 22 homes are potentially being approved. Is this driven by money? That is one question that I have. When the developer was asked last week if they plan to have green space or trees planted, the answer was simply no. In addition, many mature trees are being cut down. Mr. Copeland, across the road from our home, has put his land in conservancy to help maintain our rural feel. What a slap in the face to him. What about light pollution, noise pollution, school overflow, traffic congestion, increased crime, trash, water drainage? We are getting ready to see snow melt. Come and look at our property. We have seen that flow through our house back out to Lassie Road. I'm very concerned when they start starting this construction. No to a horse barn, yes to 22 homes. Something is just not consistent here. This is just the beginning. If this goes through, how many others out there will be developing, coming in, making money, and then leaving with when we're left in the behind? Jim and I have enough acreage that we could do the same thing. Can you imagine this area if there were 44 or 50 homes? Again, thank you for your time. Look in your neighborhood. This could happen in your backyard. Please, let's talk about this master plan and have a consistent vision. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vicki. Do we have anyone else?
There she is.
I guess.
Eileen.
Okay. Yes,
Hi.
Eileen.
Yeah, hi, my name is Eileen Cianciolo. I am, my husband and I purchased property at 11670 Lassie Road last June, 25 acres that butts directly up to the proposed condominium development. This was our dream property. We're residents of, have been longtime residents of Michigan, and purchased this property to build our dream of a horse farm. And as we're looking at the master plan special use permit, I think that, as stewards of the residents and those who have property in the township, you being the stewards, I'd hope that you would be able to find a way to make it simpler for those who are really trying to do what is in line with what you say is one of the most important things in the master plan of preserving Whitewater Township rural character. That's exactly what we're trying to do on the property. We want to be able to put up a barn, have horses. It's something that, you know, that's why we purchased it. And it's been very, very difficult in order, it's been barriers to here's what you can't do, what you can't do, what you can't do versus the helping and assistance on, you know, what we can do. We're just trying to put up a horse farm. So I hope that that is something that as you're relooking at the master plan and your special use permit and process that you really take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Do we have, I'm sure we have others.
We do. They're coming up one at a time here. Denise Peltonen.
Yes, good evening. I am not certain, but if you are going to be discussing setbacks tonight, my concern is on properties to maintain a rural feel to around a condominium plat for the rest of the neighbors who have 30 acres and a single family dwelling. If you could think about having a 30, 40-foot treed barrier of some sort, that would be like a green zone around the perimeter of the development. And then in addition to that, I'm also thinking about the width of the roads. For example, on Baggs Road, if there currently isn't any right turn lane, I would suspect that after a couple of years if these homes go in and more people are coming in and out with their boats and everything, that there is going to be a widening of the intersection, at least on the northwest edge of the intersection. And I don't know at this time if there is any way that you could say for in the future, we'll set back the road. I don't know what the easement for the road is now, but make it for a single lane and a right turn lane for 300 feet from the intersection or something, so that when the person does buy that house on the corner of the development in 10 years or something, they won't end up with half a yard, or something much smaller than what they thought they might have for 30 years. They might only have the size of the yard that they have for 5 or 10 years. And then you've noticed that throughout the township, older homes, they end up being very close to the road. If there's any way that you can think about that now in terms of intersections, that would be a great help, I think, in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Next.
Connie Highmore.
Connie, the floor is yours.
Connie Highmore. My last name is spelled Hymore. We have property at 6761 Baggs Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak during the public comments at these meetings. I will continue to let my voice be heard in opposition of the proposed Bagg Road condominiums. It has been just 10 days since we learned about this development. Several people attended the Planning Commission meeting on March 2nd and let you know that we were shocked and strongly disapprove of condo development on this parcel of land due to the fact that it doesn't fit with the township master plan. At the same meeting, a Planning Commission member said that the master plan is just a guideline. An example was given, and I'm paraphrasing here. The township master plan can say that everyone in the township has to grow sunflowers. Some might plant a whole yard full of them. Someone else might just plant 2 sunflowers, and someone might plant none. It's just a guideline. After reading the township master plan, it doesn't seem to me to be just a guideline. It looks to be an important document that the township spends a lot of time reviewing and referencing. The zoning ordinance refers to the master plan. In Article 25.12, standards for decisions, paragraph O states, all land uses and developments shall conform with the applicable goals, policy, and objectives in the township master plan. The zoning ordinance seems like a pretty important document. Nowhere in the zoning ordinance or the township master plan can I see where it talks about sunflowers. Nowhere in the zoning ordinance or the master plan does it say, if you want to control what your neighbor does with a piece of property, buy the land. That was mentioned twice last week by someone on the planning commission. What an insult to the hardworking families that purchase significant sized parcels of land to build homes on. These are not 1.1 acre parcels like are proposed for the condo development. These are 9.5 acres up to 25 acre parcels. The suggestion that any one of the property owners should have to buy all 92 acres was unreasonable and insulting. We are relying on the township board, the planning commission, and the zoning administrator to do what is right for the property owners in Whitewater Township. The proposed condominium development does not fit in with the rural atmosphere and character of the area. Say no to the proposed Bag Road condominium development. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Connie.
That looks like it.
Okay. All right, we will move forward to our agenda. I will tell you, we just haven't gotten that far. That is a very early first glance at the first proposal of maybe this will be coming forward. So a lot of people's questions will be answered as we move through the process. And we're going to try to do our best to help folks understand some of this is essentially a use by right at the state level. So there are things you can restrict with the master plan, and there are things you can't restrict as much with the master plan. So we're going to, you're gonna have to bear with us as we work through the process. Okay. Public hearings, none, no minutes, no correspondence for this meeting. For those of you that have submitted correspondence or you've written to the planning commission, that will appear on our agenda for our regular April meeting, and there's going to be plenty of it. Reports and presentations. I do have one item. We don't typically have reports at a special meeting, but I do have one thing I want to present to the PC. For anybody who is unaware, which is probably most of you, or haven't figured it out, Mickey has formally resigned from the planning commission. You could probably guess that when he set your meetings for Wednesday, knowing that he can't be here on Wednesday, that he probably didn't plan on continuing, but he has tendered his resignation. So anybody out there in Zoom or in person, we have an opening on the planning commission on the other end of the spectrum. So Mickey is was previously our chair. There was another chair in between, but definitely one of the most seasoned members we had on our planning commission. And I have encouraged him to continue to read through the packets and submit his input and insight anytime he feels so inclined. But we will be moving forward without his assistance. So Bob, did you have anything?
Absolutely not.
All right, we will move on. Okay, gentlemen, the first thing we have is our Article 25. And I wanted to set this in here just for a momentary look. I have given you the edited copy that we have back from Mr. Grobel. As I've read through it, it looks like everything we asked for. It covers our edits really well. He did put things that were removed or have a line through them. Things that were altered, changed, or added are in bold. So this is in the format that it would appear for public hearing, which we have already approved. So the strikeouts will be removed from our draft. And then the copy without the strikeouts, without the lines through them, will then be proposed at our public hearing at our April 6th meeting. The second document that you have, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring this forward. In the previous draft that we were evaluating to make sure that we could move forward with site plans, we knew there were quite a few coming forward. We wanted to make sure that we got our ducks in a row and all lined up before they started getting shot at. We had you at your February meeting, the one I was not in attendance at, did go through and we did some adjustments to the title of the section, Article 25. Added site plan review or special land uses to our title. We added an adjustment to our site review, special permit authorization and procedures, changed to Eagle and changed the text a little bit just to indicate that this is also covering special use permits. We removed 25.11A6 since it doesn't exist anymore. We probably ought to take out the reference to it. And then we had a list of guidelines that we were looking at prior to receiving Mr. Grobel's recommendation. Let's see. And you will see, I believe on page 6, we have the other guidelines that we were adding. Wanted to know if it's okay with you gentlemen, we will go ahead and this will also be part of our amendment. Unless there's any section here that you think shouldn't go forward, I would really prefer to send it to the board all at the same time, not 2 months apart. Since this was already approved at your February meeting, I went ahead and had him put it together so we could take care of the updates on 25 in total, as opposed to in different public hearings. So if this is acceptable, it's basically the same thing we had in February that you looked at. If this is acceptable, I would like to add it to public hearing for our April meeting. And I wouldn't have brought it forward if it wasn't already approved by all of you. It's labeled site plan review, but it's really just the beginning of Article 25. That simply adjusts it to say that we're going to incorporate that site plan review is also part of this chapter, because that's not the way it was listed in our zoning ordinance. That's always what was in there, but it's not how it was listed. And that's one of the things we were trying to fix. You will also have an opportunity to sit down and spend more time with it. If there is something that we on the spot feel we need to strike out, we can do that at the public hearing as well. So we do still have another opportunity if you find something redundant. Any discussion, any comments and or
I think we're good
any
with it
motion?
once, so.
Yeah, it's what we had in February.
I would just remind everyone, you know, the current Article 25 just blends together and really doesn't separate or differentiate between
Yes.
the site plan review and the special use.
Mhm.
And that's the entire reason, because we previously had no succinct or separate special use standards, and it kind of just ran together. And it's very important to understand that not all site plans are special uses, but all special uses that come before you will also have a site plan that needs to be reviewed.
They were just kind of merged. So this is just making them more distinctive entities. I would entertain a motion to put it off a month or a motion to add it to our public hearing schedule.
Motion to add it to the public hearing.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Motion by Alex, second by Mike. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. I appreciate it, gentlemen. We just have to knock some of these things out and get them on the books and get some good progress and momentum going. I don't want to slow it down with having to get approval from the board twice. So, Lois, when you are ready, could you please call for a roll call vote?
Mangus,
Yes.
Robo,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Dean. Is not here. Darrow,
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, he did formally tender his resignation in writing this week. So, okay, so gentlemen, we will have 3 public hearings, unless we merge these two, which we probably still could, but they're set up separately. So it'll probably be 3 public hearings. We have these 2 plus, I believe Bob has another one coming forward for us, as well as an additional site plan review. I think. That's the tentative lay of the
Yes,
land.
Mike Jacobson and the rest of the planning commission will be getting those nice big fat envelopes in the mail delivered to you again, so be on the lookout.
Yeah, I got mine yesterday.
Well, that was a small envelope.
No, I got mine yesterday from our last meeting.
Oh, did
My mail lady doesn't like me.
Guess not.
She got a little bit behind. I read it online, folks. Don't think I didn't look at my packet. Okay, so we will have a very packed agenda, and then we'll try to get a good lick on one of our other agenda items. Can I get a little bit of input? Would you prefer to focus on the marijuana ordinance, the site plan setbacks, or the setback ordinance? I think those are the 2 we have the most progress on, or we've been working on most recently. We also have our zoning area distinctions, our zoning map coming forward. But does anybody have any preference as to which of those 2 we kind of focus? I think we'll only have time to put in on one of those. Once we get through the public comment, I'm anticipating, as well as, 3 public hearings in this site plan. There's not going to be much left.
I recommend we forego the marijuana stuff and either go to the zoning. I mean, the map thing's pretty important, but
Yes.
so are the setbacks. Seems like that's going to be more in line with what's coming.
Okay. Okay.
It's a good point. I
I do need
agree.
everybody to speak into the
Okay.
microphone so we can hear you out.
No, that's fair.
I agree.
It's a good point. I agree.
Okay. So we will focus on setbacks. We may take a look at the map as well. And then hopefully we'll be able to hit the marijuana ordinance. It's really down to a point. I think we have it to a point where it's, do you like A or B? Do you like A or B? Do you like A or B in each section? So that you want to change this? Are we good with it? And move through that and get that knocked out as well. So who knows where we'll be by June. All right, gentlemen, I am going to move this on forward and turn over the floor to Mr. Grobel. Everything we've got left is yours.
All right, we'll try to be efficient and respect your time. For those of you who haven't met Chris Grobel, Dr. Grobel, I'm a retired professor from MSU and have had a consulting firm that does land use consulting and environmental consulting since 87, 88, and was brought on about 6 months ago to help you all update your master plan. Currently, I've got 14 communities I'm working with as a planner of record and 2 others where we're updating master plans. So we're in that process. I got Monday, Tuesday comments from this group about some changes that needed to be made to both the demographics and the transportation sections that were sent out previously. Thank you for that. Very helpful. I greatly appreciate that. And those things have been addressed. And I'm going to go through that here in a minute. But for your benefit, and for those of you who might want to hear this again, a master plan is not enforceable in and of itself, but communities in Michigan can't do zoning unless it's based on a master plan. A master plan is really a vision about how you want to look when you grow up, how things are going to work in terms of where you want different types of development to be focused in the future. And it's supposed to be a 20-year vision. Under Michigan law, 20 years or more. Under Michigan law, every 5 years, a community has to go through their master plan and audit it, meaning, is it up to date? Are there things that need to be fixed? So on and so forth. This community decided to update its plan. And that's what we're in the process of. So there are a bunch of things going on. Basically, there were 4 or 5 things that were required by Michigan law that were not in the plan. So those are the first things we're addressing. The economic development plan was submitted. The blighted properties section was submitted. The transportation and demographics that we're going to talk about tonight were submitted. The zoning plan, which is a description about how the master plan relates to zoning, that is something I'm working on right now. And the other thing is I'm going to pass out tonight at the end of your homework will be for you guys, all appointed and elected officials. We're going to ask you all some questions about the state of affairs and zoning and planning. We also will be having this summer at some point, and Chair Magnus will decide when, and you guys, but we're going to do some outreach to the community. And I hope like next month, I've got questions in front of you that will go online, that anybody can, get online and fill out a survey as well. So those are the basics of what we're doing right now. We're not rewriting a plan. We are updating your current plan. And the upshot of it is updating your goals, objectives about where you're going in the future, and updating the future land use map. This is a rural township. I think that, the plan, I shouldn't say the plan, but the tasks ahead of us are reasonable and we'll get there. So let's start with something I passed out tonight. The transportation section is called Chapter X because we have not incorporated any of this stuff yet into the plan. The formatting we're going to figure out as we go. But I had some really good comments that Elk Lake Road was left off on page 1 as a major north-south thoroughfare, and that's been added. That was an oversight. It was in the notes, but didn't make it to the text. Probably the biggest concern I've heard from a number of people is this whole complete streets thing. So let's talk about that for a minute. There are 2 places in the Planning Enabling Act where we have to address this so-called complete streets thing. It's required. What is it? It's a very simple concept that communities going forward in Michigan, starting in 2008, have to consider all forms of transportation when doing planning, not just cars. So pedestrian, bikes, everybody's got to be considered. And I put in at the suggestion, well, there was already an introductory paragraph, which basically says all that. Michigan law requires master plans to include transportation planning or a master street plan, including complete streets analysis and approach. This requirement must be in any community's plan adopted or amended 90 days after December 17th, 2010. More broadly, inventorying existing public infrastructure such as roads, thoroughfares, is an important component of the planning process. Public roads within Whitewater Township include state and county-owned roads and maintains highways, roads, and streets. Okay, so that didn't get us all on the same page. So if you look at the document I passed out tonight and flip to page 4, I tried to take another stab at that. And then everything that follows this, I've really tried to kind of downgrade the complete streets approach, where it's not going to be mandatory. It's going to be something that's going to be voluntary and considering rather than requiring.
Okay.
So on page 4.
One thing, Mr. Rober.
Yep.
We did have a brief discussion at our last meeting. I know you had asked for all comments to just be submitted to you, but we had kind of agreed that we wanted to go through it as a group.
Good, good.
So at some point, if we can just start at the beginning of the section and flip through and collect comments
Yep.
through this chapter, that would
Yep.
be wonderful.
You're the chair. This is my time. I'm just going to cover the changes and then
Go
you
right
can do
ahead.
whatever you want. Okay, on page 4, as within any community master plan within the state of Michigan, certain elements are required to be included pursuant to the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. One such required component is a master street plan, including a complete streets analysis. That's what that should say. The inclusion of this complete streets, section does not obligate Whitewater Township to implement any complete streets projects, but provides the township and its residents with information, options, and incentives to consider multimodal and safe pedestrian-based transportation components in considering future projects. And every page that follows takes words out like shall and says may. You will consider, not
Much better.
require. Yeah, and what I brought to you in version 1 is what most communities are doing. And the recommendation from the planning world is that you put in those action statements. It doesn't fit here and we're not going to do it. So that's been changed. So as you read through the next several sections, it allows you, as we have to in the master plan, the ability to incorporate complete streets analysis. And you say, well, when do we do that? Well, every time there's a site plan in front of you, you think about that. Well, are there trails that could be connected from this, housing development to the next, or from this commercial area to a neighborhood? Are there ways for people to more safely walk the streets and the roads? More particularly, you have very few streets, mostly county roads. Are there ways for bicyclists to more safely do that? Those things would be a starting point, not a requirement, but a consideration that currently you do not have supported at all in your master plan, and you have to. So that's been controversial here. I think there's been some misunderstanding. I've said it many times. Hopefully tonight it's getting through. It's not required, but it can't be done unless it's in your plan. So it's going to be an optional and a consideration thing rather than a requirement. So let's stop there for a second. Any questions about that change? Yep.
For example, this condominium complex, would that be a place that we would say that we want, say, paved sidewalks? Because in a condominium complex, you tend to have a lot of older people. You would be also looking at, I don't know that you'd be considering a bike path, because I don't know that any of the roads around there, there's a lot of bike traffic. Maybe there is. That'd be a consideration to say, do you have, the paved walkways for the residents and possibility of considering a bike path if there's a clear path where it would be maybe used to go down to the lake. I don't know.
Carl, a couple things. You're only going to get in a project what's in your ordinance. So unless you require at least the consideration of things like paths and sidewalks, you're not going to get them. One of the communities I work with full-time is the little village of Empire. And they have a similar PUD site condo section. And they've had very, very, very few projects ever come in front of them. And they realized this year that there should be requirements for sidewalks because they need them for the same reasons you expressed. And they didn't have any requirements. So we amended their PUD site condo section to require sidewalks. And then to give the planning commission opportunity to waive that or modify that when it makes sense. So there are ways to handle that. So, one of your jobs as a planning commission is keep a list of stuff that we need to address and to look at your zoning and fix if needs to be fixed.
We're going to keep you plenty busy.
Good. So those kinds of things.
There's a lot on that list.
One other really quick thing, and this does not apply to you guys so much, but it does apply to more populated townships in our region and beyond, where when you see site condo and PUD and site condo, and we'll talk about site condos more in a minute, pop up, those things, if you're doing your planning correctly, will be able to connect where trails from one that go nowhere when it's built eventually connect to trails to another one that comes up 10 years later. So a kid can go from one development to the next, all the way to the store on his bike or her bike and never hit the highway. So that's the trick of planning. We don't think about who owns what today, what exactly is being proposed today. We look down the road and see how you can link things and improve your community and make it a better place by thinking ahead. So what is a site condo? A site condo is an unfortunate label. It is the notion of a condominium building where everybody has a little unit that they own separately and they own the building together and the yard together. It takes that concept and spreads it out over the land, just like a planned unit development, where people own the footprint of their house. They have exclusive use of a zone they call their yard around their house, and everything else is held in common and managed by the homeowners association. We're all familiar with this.
It's really just a subdivision
Yeah.
With a different
that
name.
owns their own road.
Subdivision is the common name for it, but there are things we call plats that are actually subdivisions in the land use world.
Right.
So it all gets,
It's-
yeah, it all gets confused really
It's
fast.
different, but what most people would equate as a subdivision, this is a subdivision where they own maybe the playground and the road.
Yep.
So this is not rote units that are all cloned and all the same necessary.
Yeah.
They can be,
And
but
to
not
answer
usually.
Carl's earlier comment, I have not been asked to look at this controversial development whatsoever. I have no idea, nothing about it. But in general, Michigan legislature has said you have to allow in townships PUDs and site condos. You can't say no to them. Most rural communities let them float where they can be, applied for wherever they are allowed, which means in most rural communities in Northwest Michigan, that's the ag district or the ag residential or some typical thing like that. Some places call it ag forest, whatever it is. Some people even call it, ag conservation. I've worked all over Northwest Michigan. That's where those things are allowed. They are controversial because people will buy small lots next to an undeveloped large parcel, and growers, landowners, their retirement is their land, and eventually it gets developed. And nobody wants to see, the next door neighbor's land be developed. So you heard the comment earlier, we have to be honest and we have to be educating ourselves in this community for success. Because yes, there will be controversy, but we need to be really clear about what the rules are and how things work. So landowners, eventually growers, farmers, they're going to many times develop, and they have the option of a plat, of meets and bounds divisions under the Land Division Act, or site condo PUD. So our trick in the community here is to put good rules together to guide those kinds of developments. Bay Township in Charlevoix County, we put together, we took the PUD site condo section, which was getting people angry, and we put together a conservation design where homes were clustered, 50% of the property was set aside, and we gave density bonuses to the developers that if they went beyond the minimum standards, they could even build a couple more houses. There are ways to tackle this. Down zoning, meaning increasing, decreasing the density in an ag district in conjunction with a conservation design PUD ordinance makes sense because it gives the landowner still the options. So you can't take away and not give. You got to make it all balance. Anyway, that's off topic, but I have not been asked to review that thing. There are many, many ways to approach it.
And we haven't even gotten there. In this situation, we have a large acreage parcel, 200, 160 acres
Yeah.
that was held by one farmer.
Yeah.
And all of the parcels were purchased in 10 to 50 acre chunks. One in the middle decided to site condo.
Well, again, I
So
don't know the
for people
details.
that have been driving down the road forever,
Yeah.
kind of miss the sunflowers, but we have, we're just hitting that, educating the public
Yeah.
that we can work with the developers, but this is not something we can just say, no, you can't do anything.
Kim, one thing that would be helpful in educating the public is to show the statute in the legislature that says we have to do this.
Yep.
So it's not taking somebody's word that says you have to do
Yeah.
this, or this is the way it is. Put the statute there, you can look it up,
Yeah.
and you can see your hands are either tied, or you do have some room. You are given some room to work.
Well, I've got a 1.5 hour PowerPoint exactly on that topic that I do for MSU and MSU Extension. It is boring as hell.
It's not boring to the person.
But that can be helpful.
Who is applicable.
But it's very helpful because we take a a sample property in Wexford County,
Mhm.
the same property, we follow it through all the different options for development. And who gets to decide how it is developed? The landowner. As guided by the master plan, as operationalized or made law by the zoning ordinance.
Mhm.
So that's already on the shelf if you ever want to do that. I'm
Okay.
gonna warn you in advance, though, bring the caffeine. Because I have taught that one all over the state and it is a dry one.
You know, for the people that are being affected.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, because then they could look and this is a statute that the legislature says thou shalt do.
Well,
Your hands are tied.
we'll go
That's-
deeper
that's
than
what it
that.
is.
We'll go deeper than that. We can explain deeper and then give them, everybody opportunities to ask questions.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing.
Problem.
Get it out there,
A lot
have,
of times it'll take care of it.
yeah, have the questions answered, directly. That's been my experience. Been at this for 35 years and lots of controversial communities. I've worked in communities where people were like doing these discussions at gunpoint. I won't name any names, but Bay Township, again, Charlotte County, people drew guns on each other over the number of mobile homes on a single property when I started working there. So anyway, there are ways to work through that.
And we may need to take a look at our guidelines, but we have a functional condominium ordinance now. And that's part of maybe what's the problem, because previously we did not.
Yeah.
So it was basically just common knowledge, don't go to Whitewater, they won't let you do anything.
Well,
So now that we have a more functional ordinance, we have more people who want to see it function.
yeah.
So we may need to adjust, and we could probably use your assistance
Yeah.
and guidance in what things we can add as requirements.
And
to
it's
a
not-
PUD or to a site condo to soften the edges.
It's not intended
and
to be
mitigate the
self-serving, but there's a lot of things as I read your ordinance that could be addressed.
Oh, no.
So you decide,
No question.
put them in order
No.
and I'll help you through
No,
it.
no argument, no argument whatsoever.
Okay, so that is, I just wanted to document and assure you that you've been heard and the transportation section has been addressed. And the complete streets thing, I think, is more in line with the township's needs. Can we go move to the second thing?
I would suggest that we, but I'll take input from you guys. I would suggest that we call transportation for now and come back to it again with whatever discussion we have of the new rendition, because I see substantial improvement. Does that
This
work
is
for
not
the
your
rest
last
of
bite
you?
at the apple. We haven't even done any kind of public hearings. We got months, you can have input. So now is great, but it won't be your last opportunity.
Or now would be the chance to bring up something if you have another question on this specific.
Well, I have a whole list of road
Same here.
corrections,
Okay, good,
so.
good. Do you want to do those in this form or you want to write them out for me?
Oh, I've got them written down. I can hand them to you or however,
Why don't
however
we
we want to do it.
discuss
Well,
Let's do both.
Here's one of my questions that applies directly to that. Is there a way we could simply adjust the north, south, the east, west, or could we put a graph in here where we list the major roads?
You mean a
Whether or
table?
not they're asphalt or dirt, their condition, whether they go east, south, northwest, or all of the above?
Yeah, we could
Could
do
we
that.
just do a chart? Because
Sure.
I think that is, in this township with where we're at in development right now, even the simple listing of public or private
Yeah,
might really help people to
Yeah.
get a sense of, I mean, but where my house is going up, our road sign is nailed to a tree and it is handwritten. We
Well,
like it like that.
let's face it, there's a
But
lot of
It
development.
doesn't fit
There's a lot of development
guidelines.
in Northwest Michigan currently, last couple of years, and there's more coming. And
Yes.
most of the public has no idea why their road's not getting plowed and they don't know it's a private road.
And a
So
lot of
be-
times people don't realize that.
I take that comment and we will do that. Others?
That would be great. And then I would say, take your list, my list, and we can incorporate all those into one list of our roads. And then it will specify, these are private roads. And maybe we put that on a separate
Good.
list
Good, great,
and catalog them by their type, arterial, primary, et cetera.
good. And I really appreciate the opportunity in a special meeting to finally get into this discussion. That's really good. Other thoughts?
Gentlemen, does that work for you?
Yes.
Is that, okay. And I think that'll take care of your list, because we'll start with your list.
Yeah. And Mike, we can copy it or I'll take it with me and give it back to you either way.
Because I had the same thing. Some of the ones I'm like, primary artery Benton. It's, yeah, or Whitney. It's.
Yeah, you
it
live
goes
here.
Between two streets.
Some roads were
It's so
completely left
tiny.
out, and some roads were
Yeah.
mismarked as to north or south,
Yep.
east or west.
Well,
And
you
it goes
guys,
The other way.
you guys live here.
Yeah.
I live in Leelanau County, so I'm a stranger. However, I drove every single one of your roads and your private streets to come up with this list, and I'm sure I made mistakes, so let's fix them.
Well, some of them may not have been marked.
Well, I looked at
In
maps.
all fairness.
I looked at map. I had, yeah,
Uh,
spent several days doing that. Okay,
yeah.
so
But
other
that would be a
things.
substantial improvement, I think, a good usable improvement. We
good,
could
let's do it.
adjust to that. All right.
Guaranteed.
Anything else anybody wants to put forward on transportation? Or we can go over the new version and see what our list, I think that will dwindle down our lists
Let's do both. Yep.
substantially.
We'll come back to it, but let's do both those things.
Anything else specific? Mike, did you have anything else other than the road names and directions and
It's
locations?
directions and whether they're paved or unpaved.
Yeah.
Like I say, some roads didn't even get mentioned. Whether we want them mentioned or not, I don't know. I mean, like, all the way out at the end of Williamsburg Road, there's Dead Horse Road and the Diagonal Road, and they weren't even mentioned. They're both gravel roads.
Mhm.
Do we want them mentioned?
Well, gravel can be better than some of our roads.
Yeah, like, let's get it all in there. Let's put a
Okay.
complete list together.
So we will tentatively set, in the interest of progress, we'll tentatively set transportation for an additional review next time around. Whether that's just us internally or with Mr. Grobel.
Yeah.
Okay,
And let's make sure we get your comments tonight, so there's no delay. You want to do that now? Can I go and get those?
or we can photocopy them at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
I think that might be our best.
Yeah, all right. The next topic is the community demographics. And I got some comments on that on Monday, and there were some good comments. There are a couple of changes that were made, and they're in bold, that East Bay Township on page 4 should actually be East Bay Charter Township, and that was corrected. The numbers on Acme Township are slightly off. The numbers then were off on Grand Traverse County on table 6 on page 6, and that's been corrected. Blair Township, no intent was somehow left out of the table on page 3.5. I don't know why, but that has been put back in. And those, I believe, were the comments that I got.
Did you get my comment about Five Lake Township, change
Oh.
in population with
Yep.
closing of Pugsley Correctional Center?
Yep.
Because prisoners are.
That
counted
would
in
be
the US
significant.
Well,
Okay, that
goodness-
makes a lot more sense.
Goodness, I was probably
I was wondering about that.
purposefully forgetting that because it
It's
was,
not just because I was only administrator, that's before I got.
Its popularity has not gone down. Its septic systems haven't blown up. It wasn't
Well,
making sense.
this one
That
woke
helps.
me up, and that's, I guess, why I forgot to mention it. Okay, so, yeah, Five Lake Township had a decrease in population, and it decreased by almost half from 2010 to 2019. Two things. Five Lake Township has very few people in it in the first place. Second thing, Five Lake Township on September 24th, 2016 closed Camp Pugsley Prison, which was half of their population in the census, frankly. So I double checked those numbers and I looked up the dates of the closure, and everything's accurate there. So yeah, that's why. That's why Five Lake lost a whole bunch of people.
Other than that, really, our growth has been, give or take a few percentage points, very consistent over the whole region.
About 9.5%, which is a pretty big number. And actually, I think the next time you do this, you're going to see this COVID bump. It's going to be even higher.
Oh, yes.
People are moving here. And, you know, in my other part of my work, I do all kinds of wetland, land use, critical dune, high risk erosion permitting and stuff and work. There's a bunch of people moving here right now.
A lot of the seasonal has become primary.
That
If
plus
they could escape Chicago and go there occasionally instead of coming here
Well,
occasionally,
Kim,
they have.
even bigger. I'm seeing young people who are in Chicago and other places who can work anywhere now, and
Yes.
they're coming here.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, not retirement folks
Instead of
with
visiting,
second homes.
they've shifted their primary.
And then how about all these COVID babies? I mean, I think that there's gonna be an explosion of population.
This whole thing is, I mean, this demographics thing is kind of outdated already, just because of what's happened in the community in the
Yeah.
last couple of years.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Land is sold all over here, so, I mean, we're updating it with the information that we have,
Correct.
but it is outdated.
Well, first of all, this has been the most controversial census in history, where a whole bunch of groups are saying they were not counted properly. And the federal government actually did not fund a good count this year, this time around, to be honest with you. So it's very controversial. So we have the numbers, but we take them with the caveat of what those numbers are and what they aren't, and the criticism. And the criticism isn't coming from some fringe place. It's coming from like establishment that this was a census that wasn't done well enough. But the numbers are what they are.
2010 also wasn't real popular in that it kind of, maybe with statisticians, but it asked a lot of questions that you're like, that's none of your business.
There was that, yeah.
And the pressure of 6 people at your front door, I answered it 4 people ago.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer the rest of the questions.
Yeah.
I think they shifted too far the other
How many
way.
did you see this time?
So we have, well, none,
None.
but what we got, but I answered the questions
Yeah.
right off the bat because they were questions I was willing to answer.
I mailed
Um,
mine in and I still had 3 visits.
I think we had too far one way and then too far the other. So
Yeah.
we really are kind of working with, in my opinion, 2 censuses that are a little iffy
So let's take
over
that.
20 years.
Yeah, let's take that in confidence and in advice about what these numbers are and what they aren't, but that's what we have.
Yep.
So it was really important for me to make sure that your numbers were updated because they hadn't been done in 10 years or so. Okay, anything, Madam Chair, you want to do
Can we
further?
go through this one page by page?
I would be happy to.
Okay. The first page, bottom line on the introduction, you need a space between 2 and Grand Traverse, which is a
Oh,
stupid little thing, but
okay, let me ask before we go further.
yes.
Are these the kinds of things we want to spend meeting time on, or you want to just give me on your page with like spaces and commas and periods?
Well, I can submit those later, or they're pretty
Yeah.
minor to mention as we go through.
Yeah, spelling correction, stuff like that, maybe we should just
Okay,
point out to him. I still think there's stuff we could talk about in
okay.
this.
Good, let's do that.
Anything else on the introduction?
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else on the introduction? No problem. Okay, age groups. I had a question where it gets really hard to read when we have bracket parenthesis after bracket after bracket. Do we have to list out family age persons, a 5% from to, do we have to have all of those, or can we
Well-
simplify it a little bit? Because you're trying to get everything you put in a graph.
No, this
in
is
a
only,
paragraph.
this is only part of what's in the graph, the stuff that, you know, called itself out to be noticed. So the paragraphs, the text isn't a regurgitation of the whole table.
I had just one question.
Yeah.
Well, it says like mature family.
Yeah.
You know, and it has an age. And then it says forming family and it has an age. Aren't we all wise enough to figure that out for ourselves? Do we have to be told that
No,
this is?
I don't think anybody in the entire country walks around with census definitions in their back pocket and in their minds. These
Would
are,
it-
That, I mean, we
Census.
know their age and we know if you're forming a family, or if we know if you're not.
these are census definitions or terms of art. It's not something I pulled out of my ear.
No, I didn't ask you to pull out your ears, but what I asked for was, do they need to be in here?
If you want somebody to read this and understand it, yes.
Would it be possible to put them in a small key, even on the same page, and then not reiterate every time the word comes up?
Sure.
I think that would make it a more readable paragraph.
Okay. I'm not sure what
Would
the,
something like that work, Al?
Yeah, that would. something-
You know, just like you'd have a legend for a map.
okay.
I want to take that
Go ahead.
conversation just a little bit farther.
Go for it.
I think some of this information is a little bit intrusive in I want to, like, things about income, age, in seasonal housing. In this era of criminology, where people use their computer to victimize other people, do we want that in our master plan to make our citizens vulnerable? I
Well,
personally don't think so.
You mentioned this a couple
Hey, we're
times.
loaded. Come rob us.
You mentioned this a couple times already. This is all public information. It's the census data. It's online now. And you are required to assemble it in a meaningful way in your master plan. Or don't do zoning, don't do a master plan. If that's that big of an issue and it's already public information, well, we're stuck with it.
I think that's what we're asking is it mandatory? Does it have to be in there? I think that's the
Yeah.
main question.
Yeah, you got to have demographics. It's right in the statute. Yep,
I will-
absolutely.
I will say this, Mike, that there's this program called Sales Rabbit. And you can go on there and you can click on every single house anywhere you want, and it tells you all this and more.
That should be illegal too.
It's, yeah, it's.
There's, and that's
there.
only the tip of the iceberg on the scary
Yeah, that's
stuff.
without-
You know, more importantly, I've seen this in other communities and as part of the planning for the future, you know, knowing the demographics, not just the age groups, or whether you have young forming families or whether your township is 90% retired people, and what the income plays an important role in the overall planning when it gets down to the zoning too, because is your zoning going to plan for a township that grows or a township that may be dying off? I mean, those are the two extremes, but I've seen it both ways.
Well, the trend in Northwest Michigan has been in the last 20 years that young families are disappearing and retirees are arriving. It's a different story today. And I don't think we know exactly what's happening yet, but it's a whole different ballgame. So, you know, you don't have to do zoning. You don't have to do planning, but you can't do zoning without planning. And you have to do a demographics analysis if you're going to do zoning, to be more, you know, straightforward about it.
I got one more comment in this whole demographics thing. I'm opposed to this whole color issue. In my opinion, you're either a citizen or you're not a citizen. And with this government listing everybody by their color, that's the government and the media promoting racism. I don't care if there's.
Do you think this is an appropriate time for this right now? Because this is just census
It's,
data.
well, okay.
I'm not
Well,
creating
I think
any of
it's-
this
It
stuff.
covers race, but it doesn't cover citizen or not a citizen.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a problem discussing it?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm understanding something that's useful to census data. If you've got like a personal problem with race,
No, that's my point.
No, his point is that this,
My point is, it shouldn't be about race. It shouldn't be about race one bit.
that's an
We are
argument.
either a citizen.
with the
or
federal
we're a
government.
non-citizen.
That's an argument with the federal government, not with me. This is just census data from the federal government. Okay, so let's be really clear about what our parameters are here. I didn't invent any of this stuff.
But can we word it differently
No.
than the way they word it?
No, these are census data. These are data from the census.
Mr. Grobel,
Yes.
do we have to have an interpretive paragraph, or can we simply have a table that provides the data without an
On
interpretive?
race,
Yes,
honestly.
honestly.
Yeah.
Whoa, okay.
What you gotta remember is that
No, this is an honest, this is a legitimately, I'm
Okay,
asking you the
I'm listening.
question.
I've just never heard such a question. Go ahead.
Can we?
Well, you know, I think this race thing, it personally.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous. I have a brother-in-law that's black. And,
My sister-in-law's Chinese.
yeah, and the thing is, nobody cares.
This is how it
anymore.
starts. Okay.
Nobody cares.
I'm part
So-
Native American Indian.
Nobody
So-
cares.
So-
Yeah, but we're all not wanting to talk about it. Okay, what does it say? Table 7 shows Whitewater Township's racial composition and
What
national.
page are we on?
Page
Sorry.
3,
We've
7.
kind of jumped
Yeah,
pages a little bit.
I was taken aback by this, sorry. Page 3-7. Racial and ethnic composition. This is the text that is causing you angst, apparently. Table 7 shows Whitewater Township's racial composition and national origin to be relatively similar to Grand Traverse County, with 94.7 of the population reported as white. I could put self-reported if that helps. 2.6% of the population as American Indian and Alaskan natives, 0.2% reported as Black or African American, 2.5 as Hispanic or Latino. Now, all of these definitions are problematic. We didn't invent them. I'm not inventing them. These are the census categories.
I know that you didn't invent them, but what I'm trying to get at is change has got to start somewhere. Okay, and the power of the government comes from the people. And I know this isn't a popular view, but it's my opinion that here we are the strongest. At the federal level, we are the weakest. Here we can make change.
Yeah.
And I would suggest we make a comment, something to the fact that we have a diverse community.
Well, you don't. You got a 94.7% white.
Statistically, we don't.
But that doesn't
But
mean
there
we
are,
care.
right, nobody cares, but it's not like it's an exclusively white community. It's not like we don't let colored people in.
See, this is
Would it be
totally
possible-
inappropriate.
Would it
These
be
are just the
possible to
census
have-
numbers.
Would it be possible to just have the introductory paragraph that our composition is similar to Grand Traverse County and just leave it at that?
Well, that's not a
Without the
master,
interpretive
that's not a
data.
master plan I'm going to provide you. No, that makes no sense. And if you're going to be this strange on race, we're not going to be able to work together on this project. We have a lot of work to do here. Now, your comments, Italians weren't considered white until the 40s. Okay, Latinx people are now being considered white, you know, one by one. These are social constructs imposed by the world on us and recorded by self-reporting in the census. If you want to have a soapbox to talk about your concerns about people of color or whatever, it's not here. This is not the proper forum.
I think you're not understanding. It is not that we have a problem with persons of color. It's that we have no problem with persons of color.
If
To
any
the
person of
extent
color
that
listened
we
to this
feel like,
conversation, they
why
would take
are
the
we-
exact opposite away.
No, why are
you
we
kidding me?
doing an analysis and a breakdown and an interpretation?
All right, I guess I'll tender my resignation on this one because wow, I've never heard such a thing. 35
Well, I don't
years.
think we're
35
opposed to
years, you
leaving the
guys.
data, but do we have to have the interpretation?
No, I'm not going to do this. That is totally inappropriate. And if we're going to like, you know, count numbers, most of my family is African-American, most of it. Now,
We have no problem
Nobody
with that.
cares.
well, I just heard the kinds of things that caused me great concern. I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. I'm 60 years old. I worked all over the country and the state, in court and out of court, in community and in university. That was totally inappropriate, you guys. I'm not, yeah, and I'm not going to stand here and not say that. It's my right to speak that too. I was hired by you guys, and that's the issue, is that there are a number of things in this community that are problematic, and that little conversation, which I hope was recorded, is extremely problematic.
You made a comment about the Italians, and that's part of what leads me to this kind of thinking is we don't call them French Americans, we don't call them Italian Americans, we don't call the rest of the people in America and label them by their color. I
Mike,
just don't understand
Why did you bring this up in the first place? What's your issue? These are just census data. I don't know what this is about.
But why do we have to have an interpretation?
It's not
Why-
an interpretation.
Why can't we simply have the data?
That's what you have.
And then we have a paragraph that says what that means and how we're comparing to the surrounding neighborhood, which by the way, you're wrong on some of them because
Well,
you missed a
okay.
couple.
Those are words that are interpreting the table and whatever.
Well, no, we have no problem with, I don't think anyone has a problem with
That's
the
just
table.
asking.
I don't understand the point of any of this.
And we don't
There's nothing
necessarily know
wrong
what
with
is
that.
and isn't
That's
allowed.
the
God bless you.
federal data, that's.
God bless you.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Sorry, what was that, Carl?
I don't see the point of any of this discussion. That's data, that's all it is, that's required by the government. I don't even understand, in my mind, how we can say that Hispanic or Latino is a race. My fiance was married into a Spanish family from New Mexico. Now, are they, what are they? They're one of the original settlers. I don't understand what in the world the argument. This thing is there, fine, leave it alone.
Well,
That's
and,
ridiculous.
Just asking questions, Carl.
and my niece,
No, you guys are, I don't understand any of this.
Carl,
This is
my niece
ridiculous.
has trouble getting into college because she's Chinese. I think that's what Mike was pointing out. Why are we making
We're
more
not
of an
making-
issue
this
than
is
is
the
necessary?
official Census data of the United States government, period.
Okay, but the
That's what it
paragraph
is.
above it,
We need. to
Is
just say
interpretation.
There it is.
but the paragraph above it is interpretation. And we didn't even get to the point that he was off on a couple of them. per
Well,
the chart.
Let me say one thing, and look, if we can't have a nice discussion, and you have an opinion, I have one.
And that's fair game.
If we can't walk through that as a group, and if a gentleman gets mad.
I just
that's
didn't
up to
see
him.
making an issue out of it at all. Okay, there
Well,
it is.
boy,
Fine, let's go on.
That's
That's got nothing to do with
Just
what
a
we're trying to do.
conversation.
Yeah, just.
And
just
also,
discussing.
I understand that, hey, we're a homogeneous community. We have everybody, but the government doesn't look at it that way.
And you
maybe
know
they
what?
should.
That's
Why can't we encourage them to?
And I
But
think
we can encourage them, but we can't do it in this document.
gentlemen,
That's just not.
He's
like you
asking a
said,
question.
That's what it is. That's the government.
gentlemen, I'm
Yeah.
going to back this up a little bit.
End of discussion.
We do have the bottom line that we have to be able to discuss things. And if we can't ask the question, is this necessary?
Well,
this
yeah,
won't
It
work.
was, end of discussion.
well, if you can't ask it without somebody getting mad.
Well, yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
mad, but
I
I'm just
agree
saying
with
this whole
Ken.
thing to me
If
seemed.
we, how are we ever gonna talk about anything if you can't? I mean,
If we're not going to get past asking questions on that one, there's a lot of other stuff
Somebody
that
asks questions,
isn't going to
we're
work.
gonna have to keep-
Bob,
Yeah.
I'm going to defer something to you. We have Mr. Grobel's content. He has been compensated for his time, and I don't think he's going to assist us anymore, which we may need a new consulting planner.
That's not me.
No, I know that's not your thing. Is there any problem with us moving forward with the documents that we have and working forward from there so that we're not losing progress? I take it from the interpretation that
I don't think there's a problem with that at all. Once the document-
we paid him for his time.
It's your information.
Okay.
You do what you want. In my opinion.
So I'm gonna put it forward. I think there may have been some other sections that nothing was gonna, that it wasn't gonna work. Gentlemen, so I will put this to you because we're obviously suddenly in a very different situation. Do you want to go through these documents and have some of the missing sections worked through and then pick up our process in looking for someone else to assist us with the balance of our master plan? How do you want to proceed going forward? We have another hour of master plan time and we've had almost none to work on this and we really do need to get things moving.
Why don't we use
So-
why don't we use what we can, we paid for it. And then if we don't, if there's some sections in there we want to change, we can change, but why don't we just start from the top and use what we can, if that's an agreeable.
I think it has to be a Whitewater, and that's one of our concerns right from the get-go. This has to be a Whitewater Township document, not, he wasn't gonna like it when we got to the next section because this is a boilerplate textbook that has no reference to Whitewater Township whatsoever. The economic development plan doesn't mention a single thing that Whitewater Township needs. So, anyway, so gentlemen, do you feel comfortable starting at page 1 and just going through this and we'll see where we end up?
I do.
I do.
Yeah,
Okay. Carl?
What?
How are you with it?
I'm fine.
Okay, so page 1, under community demographics, and this is one of the most factual, straightforward items. On the, anything on page 1.
What are we looking at right now?
We're looking at the demographics section. We're gonna go through it and see what opinions are on that and then move forward from
I
there.
think that's 3-1, is that right?
Yes, 3-1.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot he has separate documents.
And I think I feel bad when it comes to like the family thing,
Mhm.
Like the mature family, I've never heard of it, I've never seen like that, but it's just a simple question.
Yeah,
I mean,
They're
my
just
God.
questions.
there's
Trying
no
to
reason we
understand.
can't set it in, so it's easier to read, set it into a key, just like you would with a map, and have it a little more readable. That was my other question. Does everything that's in the graph, I can read a table. Does everything in the table have to be interpreted? Because one person's interpretation is not necessarily what 99 other people's interpretation would be of that data. I have no problem with data. Anybody else have something other than adjusting our definitions to a key on that page or page 3-1?
I have just one thing is, can we,
Yes.
should we just use just the age groups that they have outlined, or do you want to put in the other,
I think we'll just take their definitions, mature family, 45 to 64.
okay. Yeah.
Family forming 20 to 44 years, and we'll put that in a little key down in the corner in a little box. Does that work?
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
anybody that doesn't like that?
Nope, sounds good.
We'll do it that way. Okay, then we'll move on to page 2. Page 2 with our graph here. My only comment on the statistics of percentage of number of individuals in each year category of people and what's anticipated. I'd like to see like 2010 number gray or something to delineate some of the lines north, south, so that it's easier to read in the brackets and follow along. Would that work? Like here, I have it highlighted if anybody can see it.
Yeah, especially like when you get to table 5 and it's on
Yes, a
two
lot of the
different-
tables,
Yeah, you
if
gotta
we
go
could do
back
that.
and put the pages. to
So
make
you
sure.
know, this is 2010, this is 2019, and that you're switching categories. Or a dark line in between, something to denote when you're shifting gears. All right, the bottom of that paragraph, the paragraph below that. Some of this is just a little redundant. We have table 2 compares Whitewater Township's population with Grand Traverse County and the state of Michigan. Whitewater Township has a greater percentage of preschool children than the state of Michigan. Whitewater Township also has a greater percentage of school-age children than the state. Why isn't that one sentence? Are we okay with merging some of those things where it's, you know,
Absolutely.
Whitewater Township has a greater percentage of school children?
I think that sounds good. Yeah.
Well, actually, junior-
Preschool and.
preschool and school-age children. Okay. So just merging that. At the fourth from the bottom, the percent, and this is in the old copy, not in the new one that he handed out. The percentage of mature families and retirement age persons is, or in both Grand Traverse County and Whitewater Township, is higher than the state average. Or some other verb, but that sentence doesn't have a verb, and it needs one somewhere. If anybody has a suggestion on a better way to do that. And then we have these comparisons support the finding that an increasing trend in township residents' age currently exists within Whitewater Township. Well, it actually supports an increase in age and a decrease in school age. So it's going both ways.
Well, and the other side, the other part of it was too, they said there was more younger people moving up here, so that doesn't.
It can't be more older people, more younger people, and well, and more children. Actually, that's true, more of everything, but
It is more and more.
not
but
statistically.
Only one can be the more.
Exactly. They can't, you know, more of everything, but we can't have all of them be number 1.
Yeah, and that's where we were. We had more younger
Right.
people, now we have more older people.
And more
Which
middle-aged.
one's higher?
Okay, so I will take a look at clarifying that and we'll move forward. Anybody else have any suggestions on that section? On page 3.2, anything else on page 3.2? And please, if you have notes on something, bring it up. Okay. Table 2, age group comparison, same thing. I'd just like to highlight our columns. I had no problem. I mean, the comparison is comparison. Those are the statistics. Does that work?
Yep.
All right. Household size, anything in that section? Seems real straightforward to me. It's give or take a 0.2%, same as everywhere else. All right, population trends. So we are on page 3.4 now. Just at the top of the page from 2100 to 2019 is just a typo. I'm guessing that was supposed to be from 2010. Anybody else have any insight on that? It either has to be, well, the chart says 2010, so it has to be 2010. It had to be 2000 or it had to be 2010 because it couldn't be 2100.
Yeah, it's gotta be 20.
We're not there, 2010, okay. Anybody have any issues with the chart and the first paragraph under population trends? Okay, I'm gonna move forward to the paragraph underneath population trends. The last sentence, I had a little bit, not much of an issue, but these population trends suggest that Grand Traverse County and Whitewater Township have been discovered as desirable places to live, work, and recreate. I think we've been discovered a long time ago. So just are desirable places to live, work, and recreate. Would that work for everybody? Okay.
Do we even need that entire sentence?
Well, there's a whole lot in here we don't need. But I don't have a problem with it if it's tapered down.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we're gaining population faster than the state of Michigan. That's because they're all coming here.
I mean, like Grand Traverse County is a desirable place to live, work, and recreate, and that would be plenty.
Yeah, we have Grand Traverse County and Whitewater Township. You want to delete Whitewater Township?
Yeah. I mean,
Does that work for everybody? So that it says, these population trends suggest that Whitewater, or that Grand Traverse County is a desirable place to live, work, and recreate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are you at?
We are at 3.4 in the paragraph right below table 4. And we are looking at the second to the last line. These population trends suggest that, and what we're looking at is editing it to, these population trends suggest that Grand Traverse County is a desirable place to live, work, and recreate.
What about Whitewater Township? Aren't we talking about Whitewater Township? Isn't that what we're doing? We're not talking about.
We're in Whitewater Township.
You should take out,
So we
I
could-
wouldn't take out either one of them, but I'd take out Grand Traverse County, not Whitewater Township.
That would be fine with me
That's
also.
That's ridiculous.
I don't care if we leave them both, because both are true. We're growing at the same rate.
I mean, that's what we're working on.
You're right.
Whitewater Township.
This is Whitewater Township Master Plan.
All right.
okay, so take out Grand Traverse County.
Just leave
Okay.
Whitewater Township.
And just leave it Whitewater Township.
Yep.
Is a desirable place to live, work, and recreate.
Sure.
Okay. Let me get my notes here for editing. All right, table 5 represents demographic trends from 2010 to 2019. This is comparing population adjustments between the various townships. Anything? All right. For all of that, chart table 5. Now the explanation of table 5, if you add in the closing of the jail, makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So where'd all those people go?
to other jails,
Oh, okay.
or they were released.
That's
One
what
or
I
the
wanted
other,
to know.
but
Most of them were actually released because Pugsley Correctional Facility was about as
Low.
minimum security as you could get.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was a night hotel jobs program.
oh,
Occasionally
okay.
one would walk
To
out.
great
That's
extent.
it.
Yeah.
They had the opposite housing problem. They didn't need the housing.
Yeah, and then they'd go door to door and say, you seen anybody in Orange today?
So is the facility still there? I mean,
Oh, yes.
you know.
But
could it be-
it's primarily vacant. It's being used as
It's
a
been converted to PUD.
gun range and what else?
Gun range has been there and will stay.
Yeah, but they
And the
expanded it a
Alliance
bit.
for Economic Success, which is owned by the tribe, basically owns it now.
Okay. So is it going into housing again?
That's what I was
I would-
getting at.
I wouldn't see that as a desirable condo, but these days,
Oh,
group
I
housing.
mean, they got a castle in Grand Rapids.
As long as you
Yeah,
don't-
yeah.
As long as you don't mind the ambient noise. You know,
I
15
would
hours a
I'd
day
be
and
all in.
sometimes in the fire
Okay.
degree.
So I don't know if Mr. Roble had changed the wording on that. No, that has not been changed. So we will adjust that and take a look at it when we have it in different wording. Does that work?
Yes.
Because the first sentence was not good to begin with. It shows the eastern region of, no, this only shows that Five Lake dropped. That's it. Union went up. And it's tiny to start with. Okay. We're at the bottom of 3.5 under population projections. And this is one where I had a question. And maybe you'll know this, Bob, maybe you won't. Using straight line population and using straight line arithmetic methods, are those the same method of calculation?
I'm not sure.
Because I know you can change one word when it comes to statistical measurements, and it changes what you're looking at. I'm guessing that's two ways of writing the same statistical analysis, but anybody know? Okay, that's something we'll need to find out.
Yeah, you're above my mathematical skills.
That was on my questions for you list. Okay, anything else on page 3.5? All right, we will move forward. Table 6, population projections. For once, I don't even have a problem with the population projections. I think they're very rational. Statistics are a funny thing. If you work hard enough, you can make them say anything. Some of the Grand Vision statistics that we were going to have a massive increase of 80,000 in the next 3 years or whatever it was. Okay, not realistic. Although these years, you never know. But this, anybody have a problem with it? This seems very rational and in keeping with our current typical rate of growth, acknowledging, of course, we could even put an acknowledgement in here that we anticipate a higher rate of growth following the pandemic. I think that would be a reasonable statement to add, although it is not we don't have a hard statistic. We could say that as a principle, our observations are we're anticipating a greater growth and development of population based on changes. Or do you want to avoid that entirely?
I think it's fine.
Find the way it is, or add a comment?
Did we not kind of just say that back there at the Grant or Whitewater Townships? I can't remember what it was
Nice place to
a
live.
nice place to move.
Yes.
Did we not just say that, or is that redundant?
Kind of the same thing. It's not unreasonable to say we're acknowledging that there's going to probably be an increase more than the straight line statistical measurement. But that's subjective data, not empirical.
I wonder if it wouldn't be like, mentioning quality of rivers and streams and stuff, but I mean, is there anywhere in here that just mentions all the nice state ORV trails and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe the comment about potential additional growth would be best in the summary, because there is a good summary for this unit, for this chapter. There is a list of, he listed several things that make it popular. Mostly he just said the high quality lakes, rivers, and streams. I don't know of anybody that's going to list them as low quality rivers and streams. So I just say we have rivers and streams.
Well, and the thing is too, we have the Bassa Trail, we have Sand
Yes.
Trail, we have snowmobile trails, we have a lot. I think a pretty high percentage of public lands.
Mhm.
So those are.
And I think that needs to be in another inventory.
Yeah.
I don't know that those things go, I know he has some mention of it. I don't know if all of that goes under demographics.
Well, but forwarding down, it does say prime recreational area possessing hunting, fishing, snowmobiling.
Yes.
I mean, I
Boating,
think that
canoeing.
ORVing or whatever should be.
But
in
that
there as
paragraph
well,
could
but-
be 6 paragraphs long if we add all the wonderful things we have.
True.
And I-
ask again to have people move their microphones closer.
Okay. Probably accept me.
Yeah, yours move away.
I have a hard time moving my,
I think it's Mike and Carl.
I have a hard time moving my microphone out while telling you all to move yours closer, but I know perfectly well, and I fully acknowledge I was born with the speaker system. And yes, my dad is a preacher. So, come by it honest.
Probably
All
good
right.
for karaoke then, huh?
Huh? That would work. All right, I would like to keep that list of our assets a little more generic. And I wouldn't mind if it was a little more generic than he has it here, because I think that needs to go under a list of assets and community and recreational opportunities that we have. And I felt like maybe this much detail was a little misplaced. But I'm open to adding or subtracting. I don't think that's a real major issue at this spot. I just didn't know if that's what should, if it should be here or it should be elsewhere. I agree that it should be in here.
Make it more generic here, then there's a spot later on we could add.
Yeah, we'll have,
qualities, maybe like the, like the trails and the horse trails.
I think we have to have a recreational, we have that in our master plan currently.
Okay.
I think we need to expand that dramatically, and that's one of the things we came up with. We did do some lists of expanding. I think, Mike, you had that section, along with medical, where we thought, okay, Mike expanded it a lot, and we kind of agreed that we needed to expand it a lot more than he had, and kind of get maybe an inventory of major, sites to see in Whitewater Township, or things that contribute to your living here. And I may deal with that more than most of you. I guess I'll go on a limb and say that, simply in dealing with rental properties. Where's the closest place to go swimming? Where's the closest spa? Where's the closest place I can work out? Do you have trails? Is there somewhere I can ride my bike? I get those questions regularly. So, and there's a lot. There's a lot to rattle off. Do you have any good daycares? Simple questions that really affect people's quality of life. We'll have to have a list of some major assets. I did have one issue with the fourth from the last sentence on this page. There was an abundant number of residential lots, 2 acres and larger. Whitewater Township has never been an easy place to find lots, ever. I had to hit 40 before I could find one. And I had to hit 40 before I could afford to buy one.
Yeah.
I found a few, but
That's
before I
the-
could actually
that's the
afford to
problem
buy
right there.
it. I had on here to just delete 2 acres and larger, because we have the 40 acre tracts are 10 acres and larger are very, very hard to find. It's just that one section on bags that's come available for literally decades. But most of our lots, when they do come available, they're 1 acre. Maybe 1 acre with open space, or 1 acre with shared green space, but it's not very common to come up with more than a 1 acre lot.
And the
Here.
subdivisions, like the one up by Kirkhoff's, and then that other one that was started off on Broomhead. There's some vacant lots in those yet.
Deal in Broomhead is completely still vacant.
Is it completely still?
And
I see
I'm
it was
50%,
broken off.
I'm 50% responsible.
Okay.
Steve and I own that one.
Oh, do you? Okay, I see it's kind of broken
Yes.
off there. I thought
Well, and
maybe-
that was to try to prevent damage.
Yes.
Once we got in, we did not do the development on the property. We finalized all of the splitting because it had been reverted back to the original landowner. So that was trying to preserve the roads, and it needed some serious, been ignored for 10 years TLC.
But, and you can see too
So.
that the size lots that those are,
They're 1 to 2 acres.
they're hard to sell.
Well, they're 1 to 2 acres, but they haven't been put on the market. So you can't hold that against anybody. There's still a few on Mabel. There was a developer that came through or a party that came through and bought several, but I believe there are still a few more in Mabel Meadows. Truax may have finally sold off the last couple. But I don't think they're still all built on. And a couple of the property owners there did double up. So they're not gonna be built on anytime soon. A lot next to them was available and they bought. I even know one where they bought both of them. There are always options. And that's why I wasn't saying it sarcastically when I said, if you don't want some next door, buy the land. That is just one of the last ditch efforts you can use. I offered to buy my next door neighbor's parcel and I offered to sell mine. You got to work things out. So, okay, is there anything else on 3.6? Because I think we could all come up with a lot more that we need to
Yeah.
add to that asset list.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, 3.7. We already hit this
Maybe
one.
we ought to just skip this one.
Do you want to remove the paragraph? Or we'll need to correct the data because it's wrong.
Well, correcting the data should be done. And I mean, I wasn't trying to make the guy quit on us, but I was just
No.
asking some questions. Like, I mean, to me, I don't really care what your skin color is. In this information, I think it should be, a citizen or non-citizen or whatever the correct verbiage would be. But if this stuff is what's gotta be in the master plan, which was what I really was asking.
Yeah.
Then it needs to be there.
But just a table could be in there, and they can sort it out for themselves. I mean,
Right. I
Yeah,
would-
And
yeah.
maybe that's, or an introductory sentence
Yeah,
without as much of a us versus Traverse City, us versus the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
We could drop that portion. And what I was saying, data off, the only data that's off is it says that we're higher than Grand Traverse County in the state of Michigan for American Indian and Alaskan Native. We're also higher for Asian Pacific Islander than Grand Traverse, but not than the state. So, I mean,
And
it seems
does that
very
make you-
petty.
Does that make you good or bad? And that's why I was
No.
thinking, no, and I know, you know what I mean, but that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Just the table, because you know what? I think we all understand, we're all the same.
Right.
We're all the same.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your skin color is, we're all the same.
Can we hit a midpoint of putting just an introductory sentence of what the table is without the analysis?
I would agree to that. yeah.
Without the
I agree with that,
comparison.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. That's,
Or maybe even similar to Grand Traverse County in the state of Michigan. Well, I don't know if we're similar to Grand Traverse County. I don't know that we're similar to the state of Michigan.
So like basically that first sentence.
Basically,
Before
the
it
first
starts getting
sentence.
to the
Yeah.
percentages and leave it. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And then we'll take another look at it if you feel it needs to be more. I'm just more hesitant when you're providing analysis as opposed to data.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
would
it's
prefer
like-
to err on the side of data with an individual making their own
their own
analysis.
judgments, yeah.
All of the information's there. We're not withholding any information. Maybe
So-
just emphasizing it a little less.
So stop it right at Grand Traverse County and get rid of
Yeah.
all the other wordy. I mean, it is wordy anyways.
Yes, a lot of this
I
is
mean,
very.
why
wordy.
it's totally
Okay.
redundant.
Just like we have in the next section, which I actually really like, population by gender. It's the same. Next.
Yeah, it's
It
that's
just
easy.
says-
That's the way it should be.
This is what it is. Here's the statistics. I'm assuming no one has a problem with that, so we'll move on to seasonal housing. Create. It gives a comparative analysis with surrounding townships on the percentage of seasonal housing. For a developer or a business, this can be helpful information. And I can see where it could be of merit to have the data in here. Is everybody okay with the verbiage that went along with it? Because it tries to explain why this might be off because people couldn't understand the census. I don't know if that's necessary.
I think you just put the table in myself.
I have no problem with that. With an introductory sentence. I think there
Yeah.
should be an introductory sentence of what the table's about.
Yeah.
All right.
because we're assuming that not only that they don't understand the table, that they have to explain the table.
Interpret.
I think everybody can
Okay.
figure that out.
Is everybody okay with that? Letting the data stand for itself on that one?
Yeah.
With less interpretation? Okay. Speak up, Carl, if you have issues with some of this, or you want to discuss some of it more.
We're discussing changing any, this is just data before we even get into the master plan. There wasn't any need
Okay.
to bring any of the, change any of the stuff here. This is just background. It's got nothing to do with the master plan, except knowing which way the population's going. But to be having all these petty little arguments, I'm resigning. I've had enough of this crap. This is ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with what we're trying to do. It's background.
Well, the way background is
Look, it's
presented
background.
can make
We
a
don't
difference.
have to, all right, we shouldn't change any of it. That's the background. That's what was provided. We'll look at it. We want to move forward into the future of township. So what did we do? That's ridiculous.
Well,
I'm
that
sorry,
being,
but I don't want any more part of this. You people just put a big argument, got rid of a good man that was helping us for nothing. Absolutely no good reason. The government makes this up. We don't. And like I said, I don't agree with a lot of this stuff either.
Okay.
But that's what it is. That's the government. So these are the categories. That's all. There was no reason to say we got to change it to just say we're a homogeneous community. We're not.
No,
Now, our
we're not.
population isn't that way. It's going to be going that way, I would assume. But there was no reason for any of this. I quit. I
Carl,
get it.
really, it's a matter of,
just
I don't think anybody planned on Mr. Grobel quitting.
He did it.
No, Carl.
Damn it. There was no reason to keep arguing about it.
But if we can't
shouldn't
ask-
questions, Carl?
The same question is changing it. We can't change the data. That's provided by the government. We're going to use it. We're going to look at the future and see which way it's going. Yeah, I agree with you. Sure.
Then why can't we ask the
But
question?
We can't because that's the way it's compiled by the government.
Carl,
That's all.
no one, this entire evening, no one once has suggested changing one line of data.
And there
it
no
was-
reason to just say, okay, fine.
It was a question of looking at the interpretive paragraphs that went along with it. And do we agree with the interpretive paragraphs? And do we even need to provide that?
Yeah, you guys do what you
Um,
want. I don't want any part of it. I just don't. I don't need it. That was just.
Well, this is what, gonna be for the next 20 years, but maybe there'll be an
Yeah,
update.
it's fine. If
the
you
next-
guys-
There's an update
So-
in 5 years again.
Yeah, but
I'll
not
turn
for
in
that
my,
data, right? Because if the
computer
census
and
is every
stuff
10
tomorrow.
years, then it'll
This
be
part
10
would be
years
hard to update.
for the update, for this, but
Yes.
simplifying it
Yes, sir.
now
Monday.
anyways,
Well, this isn't
I mean,
right.
that's what we're doing, right? We're just trying to
Agree.
fine tune it and simplify it.
So I'm gonna back it up once more. Carl, is your feeling that we should just stop now?
No.
Or do you-
You guys go out and do what you want. I just don't want any part of it.
No, or do you no longer want to work with the planning commission?
No.
You're never going to get 100%
I know,
agreement.
but there was no. Never mind. I just, I just didn't think there was any necessity to make such a big deal out of that.
Well-
It just
I
wasn't.
think our alarm was asking
And,
questions because we didn't know the answer.
Yeah.
And then people got mad, but my God, if we can't ask a question without. people
The
getting
question has
mad.
got to change it to be home. That's just the data. We could have done that later on in our master plan, that our
This
goal
is
is
our
to
master
have
plan.
a homogeneous community, and we're working toward that.
Okay,
But we didn't. We said, oh, we got,
Carl, I had that same question. That may have been a touchy item to bring it up on. Okay, I can agree with that. But I had the same question. Do we need the interpretive data
I don't know, but it
for
wasn't worth having.
multiple of the
I don't-
charts?
We're asked, we hired an expert. If he said we did, then we did. If you don't agree with that, fine. There was no need to have him walk out on us because.
But I agree. I don't think there was any need to have him walk out on us. But you do have to realize this is not Chris Grobel's master plan.
Absolutely.
This is Whitewater Township's
I
master
know.
plan.
But
And we have already brought a couple things to his attention. That's why he had a new draft of transportation. And I think he did a great job. You know, I kind of feel bad that we can't go forward with our process because I think he did a great job at being respectful of our concerns about the mandates and softening them
all he
to
was saying is
suggestions.
this was the data, the government, the way the government did, that wasn't enough to change it.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed working with you people. I just don't see me going to be involved anymore. It's just, I know.
Think it
having
over,
an
Carl.
argument
No one
over
can
the
make
data,
you
that-
participate in it, but there's going to be, yeah, we're gonna go through it and we're gonna say, hey, does this work for us?
And I just say one thing?
No, I don't think anyone expected Chris to leave. And I don't think he understood what we were saying, and I'll probably get emails from all over the place, from other folks. It's not that anyone cares, at least at this table, for my interpretation. I don't think anybody cares what color someone is. We were just saying, do we have to have interpretive data with our charts? No one proposed removing data. It's how the data is presented.
And one of my questions is because I don't know. Does
Right.
it have to be in there? Well,
And he
if
said
it
it
has to
did.
be, then put it in there.
I don't know.
I'm the only one that has been through any portion of a master plan review. On the planning commission now, because we've lost Mickey. Mickey was the chair when we did our last master plan. It was actually a rewrite. So that's a disadvantage. We have, on this topic, even Mike is a new member. No offense, Mike.
It's the truth. I mean,
Because I'm the only one that's been
I
here.
don't
like a
know.
veteran now,
I don't,
though.
well, I don't know a lot of this stuff.
and
I've
we-
admitted I'm over my head many times in here.
That's
So
why we had.
We've pulled
Mr.
old
Grumble
members
here
back. We brought
to
Ted
help
back. We
us.
brought Glenn back, but we don't have any
that was-
previous members, I think, that we can bring back.
No, I'm sorry, people. You'd be better off without me here.
I disagree with you, Carl.
So do I.
No, there's just no need for that.
No,
That's just what-
Carl, please understand what he's saying. He disagrees that
I
we
disagree
would be
with you
better
saying
off
that-
without
That
you.
was just going too far.
We
It
we
could've been
feel like
dropped.
we're
So
better off.
I don't understand, but that's he explained, that's the government's data.
Yeah.
That's, this discussion should have stopped right there. Say, okay, our plan, like I said, down the road is our chance to look at the future
Mhm.
and say, look, we want this to be a more human, homogeneous. The facts are there. We're not.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that we're racist or anything like that. Just as that's. the
Carl, if we can't
composition.
ask questions, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah,
so,
I yeah, I just didn't think any of that was necessary.
Okay.
And I. It just
All
wasn't.
right, gentlemen.
So, sorry,
Um,
folks.
Carl, would you be so inclined to give us another 15 minutes so that we can do public comment?
Sure.
Okay. I understand, but if you walk out, we have to walk out behind you, and then we can't do
Oh,
public comment because our meeting is instantly over. So if you can give us just a few more minutes for people to holler at us or congratulate us or contribute whatever they want to, we will, gentlemen, I'm gonna pose that we're going to move forward into our public comment phase and to close the meeting. Does that work? And we got as far as page 3.9.
well, I had
Any-
one more comment on the 3.8.
Okay,
He says, in the very last sentence here, it says, the economic downturn caused by COVID pandemic was likely contributed. I can stop right there. The information we have is only up to 2019. I thought,
Yep.
I thought the pandemic didn't start to
And-
2020.
I think we were gonna drop the dialogue on that and just have an introductory paragraph again.
Yeah.
So I took that as being both paragraphs
Okay,
because the second one didn't make any sense. You're right.
right, okay. The mention of COVID
2019
in this doesn't make any sense with the
Yes.
data that we're using.
The economic downturn does not fit with the timeline that we were
Yeah,
provided.
yeah, that was my comment.
Yep, you nailed it. Okay. All right, I am going to move forward or close out the meeting this evening by opening up our microphone to any individuals that are currently in Township Hall that would like to make public comment on something.
It's not really. a
You're up,
public-
Bob.
It's not really a public comment. I just want to,
Close
I don't
enough.
know if it's called informing the planning commission or warning the planning commission that, yes, your April agenda, I want to reiterate what Kim said. It'll be a packed one. I'll have a packet for you, the classic equine. The guy had 2 emails and he gave me the email that he didn't monitor so that he wasn't here at your last meeting for the preliminary. But he has submitted everything for the final with an excellent narrative, which I usually get down on my knees and beg for, and he actually did it, I think, a very satisfactory manner. So keep an eye on your mail, keep an eye on the email, because I'm sure I'll be coordinating with Lois to make sure the packets go out on time.
And for the mailed items, if you could send those out at your earliest availability, like next Thursday when you work, if
Like,
that's
I
possible.
couldn't send it out last
That would be
week.
great.
I doubt it'll be out next Thursday.
Okay.
It may be out the Thursday after that, which will be almost 2 weeks in advance.
That'll
'Cause
be
I
just
try to
before.
do my best to put together reports for you that hopefully
As soon
guide
as
you
you
through
have
the
it,
process.
Please share.
Not a problem.
Can I request that you send it directly to them because I'll be in Florida at some point during that.
Okay. Well, he's talking about putting
I-
together the hard copy
Yes.
that he mails out to all of the planning commissioners, correct? So
Yes,
if you can,
yes.
the hard copy, everything
Yeah.
will still be in the packet. So anyone that's on Zoom or here, if you subscribe to our PC email list, you will get the same electronic packet that we get. But those site plans are this big.
Yeah.
And there's a limit to how much you can blow them up on the computer. So they send out a hard packet of blueprints for some of us on certain things that you just can't read otherwise well. And then there's also, just for everybody's knowledge, there will also be a packet here, correct, Bob?
There
Of
certainly will be.
information available. So if anyone from the public can't read their iPad, they can come in and look at a copy that's more readily
I
available.
had one question. Can I go ahead and use, is there much change? Can I use the older packet as far as the blueprints and all that? Would that be okay or?
I
haven't even.
It's not the same stuff.
Not the
You don't
same
have it.
stuff.
It may be a
little Okay.
different. I would
Yep.
always recommend.
So-
looking at this.
It's easier to find.
Okay, sure.
We'll get to comments in a minute from us. Did anybody here in Township Hall? This floor is all yours.
I'm really glad I attended the meeting today when I
I
first.
didn't think it would be so interesting. I really didn't.
Well, I told you when I came here that I was interested in the master plan, and that's true, and we're new here for 5 years or so. But the reason I'm interested in the master plan is I'm a professional planner actually by trade and have been for about 40 years.
You're hired.
So I have a
We
master's in
do
urban.
have an empty chair.
You do. You have 2 empty chairs or 3. I don't know how you would want to count it,
Yeah.
but I was really, I don't know how to take the meeting here. I thought that what you had was a lot of information provided to you by your consultant that really took census information from the internet and put it into a document and described it. But what was missing in my mind and what I think some of the conversation got hung up on is what's the relevance of that data? How does that data influence and inform our conversation about the future of the township? We know, for example, that there's an older population that's growing here. So what does that mean? Well, in some community, they look at that and say, well, we have an older population. Some of them may want different kinds of housing styles. They may want to downsize. What's the implication for that? So there's things like that a professional planner would typically try to draw out from that analysis to show you that this data is not just a bunch of stuff from the Census Bureau. It is something that you need to understand the future of the township. The issue on race, I guess I was confused by that whole conversation in that, in my 40 years, I can never remember any land use planning decision, site plan that was ever influenced by race. I mean, so why is that really a relevant piece of the data here? I mean, I've seen it in master plans before, but it's not critical. And,
Hey,
and
you made it through our first meeting.
yeah, I did.
So you're ahead of some other people.
I did, it's a tough job, certainly, to do a master plan. I've been through many of them myself. I've helped communities do it. I've been a local planner in local governments and a consultant. I worked in several states on different master plans and different corridor plans and special area plans. But anyway, I guess all that's to say is, that the job is difficult, but what I was seeing as being missing was also the conversation about the citizen engagement, as that I know that comes, and that was mentioned that it's coming, but that is really a critical piece of any master plan. You have got to get out to the residents and either do public meetings, to do workshops on different topics, on general goals. That's where the real rubber hits the road in a master plan, in my mind. With COVID the last few years, it's been very difficult, of course, to have public meetings, but hopefully some of that's going behind us and you can plan ahead to the summer, which I think is what you were doing. To have those kind of public meetings. I mean, I look at 72 and I think to myself, what happens out here in the future? And I really hope that the township is going to be focused on that corridor. I also heard a lot of conversation about the complete streets, and that's important. Certainly, a lot of communities are looking at that. But you need to engage MDOT as well as the road commission in those conversations. The township doesn't own any of the public right-of-ways. I mean, you need to be a partner with them, certainly, and your planning needs to align with what their planning is doing. But you can't just really say, well, we hope that there's complete streets. We hope that there's connections and bike trails and be it totally permissive. Otherwise, you don't really have any kind of a plan. You need to at least get some basic elements in there. And then also the last point I just wanted to make was I think it's very important you talked about future zoning amendments, any large scale ones really have to be in the master plan that really are going to describe what they are, not verbatim certainly, but that you want to add a new zoning district, an overlay district, change the requirements in some way, shape or form to implement the vision in the master plan. So anyway.
Thank you. And I think we're going to have a job posting. So.
Well, we'll talk.
All right.
He's retired.
Well, he made it farther than the last guy. I didn't see that coming. Okay, is there any other public comment from town hall? Okay, and do we have, I'm sure we have public comment from Zoom. If you have public comment to make from Zoom, please raise your hand and we're all ears. Comments on chat are not public comment. Anyone that wants to make a public comment now, the floor is open.
Vicky Bean is up first.
Okay, Vicky, the floor is yours.
Good evening. This was quite the interesting meeting. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, you're
Okay,
good.
perfect. A few comments that were made. First of all, Carl, you are valued. I would like you to reconsider resigning. Your voice is important and we need as many voices as we have in this community. Some of the things that were said tonight, I was surprised and shocked by. And I guess I want to start out, again, I have a little vested interest, as you know, owning property on Baggs Road, but I'm not opposed to development. As I told you when I was there last week, we were very purposeful when we took out cherry trees, making sure that we were making it a great community. But again, we need to be aware of the master plan. And after listening to all this tonight, I'm not even sure that Whitewater Township has a master plan. I feel at this point, based upon everything that's going, there should be a pause on anything that's going to go forward with such a drastic change as 22 homes on 30 acres when we don't even have it really reeled in. This will make a huge impact upon our township for generations to come. Kim, I know that you own a property that you are trying to develop. I've been there. Actually, Jim and I had looked at some properties when we thought our last was going to go through. You have trees surrounded. It is not, it's actually, you know, not, there's a bank of trees between neighborhoods. That is not what this proposed development is going to look like. So again, I feel like we need to figure it out. Why should we on Baggs Road be the guinea pigs for what the planning has not done in this township? Thank you for your time.
Next individual. Connie, the floor is yours.
Good evening again. I would like to say another comment about the Baggs Road development, and that my husband and I are against it, but I am just beside myself with the behavior that happened in that meeting tonight. It is embarrassing. The negative publicity this meeting could generate for this community could be unrecoverable. It's insane. Carl's right. That was a government census he was talking about. It was just to be read and gone on to the next thing and the next thing and next thing. And it got to be so blown up over it was insane. I couldn't hardly stand to listen to it, but I couldn't break away because I couldn't even believe that it was going on. I'm embarrassed. That man who was there, that attorney, was paid with taxpayer money and walked out because you couldn't listen to him. And then when he walked out, you tried to go on with his agenda, what he wrote, and he wasn't there to answer any of your questions because he left. It was embarrassing. I'm ashamed. Makes me question why I want to be a part of this community. I can't believe it. That's all I have to say. I just can't believe it. I'll be calling you, all of you. Thank you.
Next public comment.
Yeah, this is Eileen, and Connie, thank you for speaking up. That I feel the same way. I mean, really, regardless of the development on the Baggs Road, the condominiums, regardless of any of this, like that conversation and the way that was handled in this day and time by this group that's responsible for like being the ones to create the master plan and representing the community was absolutely unacceptable and appalling, and will absolutely get out and be communicated out to the rest of the community of how that was handled. I'm just speechless. Can't even believe it.
Okay. Thank you. Next comment.
Hi.
Floor.
Hi. My wife and I, we actually own a property adjacent to the proposed development. I've been listening over the last 10 days and really with an intent to learn about the process and to understand how best to engage with it. I don't even want to talk about Baggs Road right now. I don't know what to say after that. As a committee, right now, I don't think any of you are in a place where you're going to be able to listen to the community and engage with the community in a meaningful way. I just want to come on here and say I'm going to respectfully ask for you guys to regroup and think about how you can do better.
Okay. Next comment. Okay. Do we have any other comment in here? Okay. I don't think any of us is, we're moving on to PC, internal comments. Any last statements? I don't think any of us anticipated anything in the meeting going like this. But I guess if we can't ask questions about whether or not things are required and question how things are interpreted and analyzed in the written paragraphs that go with the data, I don't see how we could move forward either, because sometimes what's in the writing that goes along with something does matter. It's not just statistics when the statistics are offered with an interpretation. That's my feeling. I think we have to be able to discuss. There's no one's opinion here that doesn't matter. There's no one's opinion that isn't welcome. But I think that's exactly it. We're all diverse. We all have different opinions, different backgrounds, different beliefs. And part of having citizen planners is having all of that incorporated. I would also ask a little bit of lenience from the public. I understand you're jumping into getting involved in the PC because of some things that are going on right now. We are doing the best with what we have been given. And we also have a lot of very new members, and we're trying to work with things. But the Planning Commission is a learn as you go, educate, take classes as you go. You start out with what you start out with and move forward. So that's what we're working with. I will open it up. Anyone else in the PC have any other comments before we close the meeting?
I would agree. It's important that we're able to ask questions. Doesn't mean I gotta like all the answers or anybody else, but if we don't understand something, the only way to get to the point where we do understand it is to ask questions. I've been taught that my whole life. I'm not gonna change now. That's just who I am.
And the other side is, Mike is exactly right. These guys know what has to be in there and what
We
doesn't,
don't.
and we don't. And we did in the table where does the verbiage work? We ask a question. And we're asking questions because we don't know. So if you can't ask a question, if we're not allowed to ask a question, then let's just put everything in there, sign it, and be done with it.
Yeah,
Because-
If we didn't have questions, we wouldn't have hired a planner.
Wow.
Come on, folks. But yeah, we're gonna have to regroup and move forward. Our continuing discussion is really just a matter of, we understand that this is important and we could at least agree on some things going forward. So any other comment? I think everybody's commented out. I'm going to, you have one?
That's the second one. You don't get to public comment twice.
Someone can make a second public comment if it is on another topic. So if this is a different topic other than something you have already spoken on, I will entertain another comment. I'm assuming this is from Zoom.
This is Vicky Beam. Based upon what you all just said and that you're learning, I think that just reiterates the fact that we need to take a pause.
Okay, Vicky. Thank you.
I don't think that's funny.
No,
I'm not finding it funny, Kim. I'm sorry.
there are things that we have to do by state law, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we are following state law. This is very early in the process, and we're going to have to work through the process. That's why it's there, of evaluating multiple factors, multiple reports on a prospective potential development. So no, I don't think your comment's funny. It's just, it's going to take time for us to work through the process. No, somebody didn't hit mute. All right, gentlemen, meeting adjourned. Before you leave, if the meeting is adjourned, but before you leave, if you could give me your preferred contact information for the website. I had that on my to-do list to update this evening. I'm sure that several people's emails will be blowing up, but if you, whatever email list you are using or your preferred contact, PO box, phone number, whatever.